Every once in a while, an out-of-left-field thought pops into my head and persists in sticking around for long enough for me to engage with it more. Often I don't feel like I have a good outlet to think and structure my observations, so I figured I might just put them out as videos whenever I have something stick. I haven't uploaded a new video in ages too. I was very much winding down after having a bit of a crash out end of last year. As much of a wind down as you can have when the day job is winding up. But having resolved to divorce the business side of art has lifted quite the weight from me, and it feels nice to just do stuff and not think of a potential way to monetize it. At first I wasn't quite sure how to pick up the pieces and how I would see myself and art coexisting from here on out. And that was scary, but I think the two of us will manage to get through that. I've since downsized on the social media and revived my newsletter. The link is down below if you want to be in the loop, and take my time with some projects. Most importantly though, I've made writing more of a priority and actually did more of that again. That was the main issue I had with last year's status quo. With the world I'm building alongside the story more figured out at this point, I was able to also finish the world map. Finally. This was like 4 years in the making. But I also overhauled the story like 5 times in those years, so having a finished map holding me back wouldn't have been great. It all worked out in the end, and that brings me to the sticky topic, as it were, that's been going around my brain every once in a while. Maps in video games. Or a thinly veiled excuse to talk about Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. During the end of last year and the beginning of 2026, I've spent quite a few hours gaming. My time has been spent between 4 games in particular: Lies of P, Assassin's Creed 1, Clair Obscure Expedition 33, and Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. These games have very different approaches to presenting their world and having the player engage with it. Let me give you a quick rundown in case you're not familiar with them. Lies of P is a Souls-like game based on the classic children's story Pinocchio. It is set in a Belle Epoque-inspired city that has had a rapid economic growth due to puppet engineering and a mysterious power source called Ergo. But then the city falls victim to the puppet frenzy, as in the automated workforce becomes violent and turns on their masters, and the petrification disease, also known as humans and animals, develop stone-like scabs, and when treated by the alchemists, those infected with the disease more often than not turn into mutated zombies. I'm sure there's no sinister reason for that. Assassin's Creed is an action-adventure open-world-ish game. You play as a disgraced and demoted assassin, Altair, working his way back into the good graces of his brotherhood, set during the Third Crusade. Along the way, he kills 9 people who are part of the Templar Order, working on their own designs for the Holy Land. Clair Obscure Expedition 33 is a turn-based RPG that took the world by storm last year. In the game, every year the paintress paints a decreasing number on the monolith, and any human older than that number gamages, as in they are erased. And every year another expedition sets out to stop her. The story twists and turns from there, and in my opinion suffers from an escalation problem and an unreliable story structure, but that's beside the point, we're here for the maps. And Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, our RPG is set in medieval Bohemia during a civil war that gets overshadowed by the soon following Hussite Wars. You play as Henry, who witnessed and survived the raising of Silver Scarlets. And in the first game, Henry does his best to bring peace and order back to his home region around Rattay and Sasau, which suffers from bandits, counterfeit currency, and general unrest. Whereas he sets out to 2 different regions as a noble's escort in the second game. We explore the surroundings of Trusky Castle and Kuttenberg, respectively. So, how do maps feature in these games? Maps in video games help to orient the player within a game world, and they track progress. Usually some way of exploration is indicated through the map. The icons tend to indicate stuff to do, places to be, and quest progression, and they do that in different ways. There is no visual world map in Lies of P. There isn't a mini-map on screen either. The level design is generally linear, with some dead ends to explore. Some levels loop around on themselves, opening new paths along the way, but it's not an open world game that basically necessitates a map. However, it has a network of stargazers, which you can teleport between. While it isn't a visual map, it gives markers in the world and a clear indication of relation between the places within an area, as well as an indication of progress. Quest markers are added behind the stargazer positions to give players a hint about going somewhere. Personally, I found this minimalist approach to mapping quite fun. I loved having to look at my surroundings to orient myself rather than use a compass and map marker. It deepens my immersion and makes me feel more a part of the world. The menu with the stargazer positions was reminiscent of tram station schedules, which also fits the world neatly. As I said, the game is rather linear in its path, so in my opinion, this was a good approach for its map too. Anything else would have complicated the matter and made me obsess over how far along I am in a particular area rather than be there in the moment. As for Assassin's Creed, the first, I'm sure even if you haven't played this particular game, you're quite familiar with how exploration is set up in this game. After all, Ubisoft trailblazed with this formula and hasn't changed much about it in almost 20 years. In essence, you climb to specific points in higher elevations to unlock your immediate surroundings and points of interest on the map, which are also then marked on the minimap that you have always in view. And let me tell you, this minimap is what hindered my immersion so much. It's basically like using Google Maps on your phone for navigation. It'll get you there, the navigation is fine, but you lose a sense of your surroundings, like you're not paying as much attention to everything going around. Speaking for myself here, I've lived close to a particular city for a couple of years. Despite that, I've almost always gone to places with navigation, and I don't know that I really know my way around without that navigation. Because whenever I was at a traffic light, I would just concentrate on the next turn I needed to take to do what the navigation told me to do, rather than find my way by myself. I love navigation, it's wonderful, but sometimes you really have to use your noggin. And it was like this with the minimap in Assassin's Creed. Now, I don't know how exact the city layouts were followed by the devs at the time. There are some landmarks they built and put into the cities, which is very nice, but I can't quite speak to the surrounding town, how it compares to the real thing and such. I haven't been to either of the three main cities, neither Damascus, Jerusalem nor Acre. I also haven't quite immersed myself in the game versions of the cities. Like, I couldn't just walk down any street and know, oh yeah, I'm here in relation to that and I need to go this or that way to reach this or that destination. I always had at least one eye on the minimap and the other on parkour routes. With the big map also having lots of immediate points of interest, I inadvertently treated it as a to-do list rather than exploration. Now, the first Assassin's Creed game is close to 20 years old, and I haven't played the newer games yet. The last was Cintiq, which I abandoned mid-game for reasons. Ask me about this on a stream and I'll tell you. But I remember the formula hadn't changed by then, and I think it unlikely to have undergone any changes since. But feel free to correct me on that. In Clair Obscure Expedition 33, we've got a traversable overworld with different areas strewn about that can be entered, similar to dungeons. Just a lot prettier than your standard brick-and-mortar dungeon. The styles of the overworld and the areas are distinct to give a clear indication which part you're currently in. The music also helps there. The overworld has one particular track, whereas the areas are much more diverse. Areas are only labeled as such on the overworld map after you entered them for the first time, for that nice progression of exploration. Before that, they give you auditory feedback of a place to explore, but not a name. This is a neat way to expand the in-game area and section it off, especially since maps in video games have only grown in the past couple of decades. The distinct styles of each mini area also help the player orient themselves pretty nicely, as there is no mini-map on screen or an area map on the menu. All there is the overworld map. So players need to make do with what the environment tells them otherwise. The mini areas, similar to Lies of P, are quite linear, with the occasional looping back though, so I'm not sure a map is actually needed in those areas. At first I found the particular map system to be quite confusing, as that's not something I've encountered often in gaming. I don't tend to play many JRPGs or JRPG-esque games. The grind in those games are known for simply isn't my preferred playstyle, so I don't know if that setup is more common in those types of games. Something I also found a bit annoying was trying to keep track of areas. Say I entered one and quickly noticed I wouldn't be able to progress through it, be it because I was underleveled or simply lacked something, or I didn't realize I could go further in. Yes, that happened. I hope I thoroughly explored the game, but I won't ever be able to say I did with 100% certainty. I know there's some unfinished stuff in the game for sure, Oscar, but I simply lost interest and my counter button finger was getting real sore, not gonna lie. I have my issues with the game. Again, ask me in a stream and I'll happily rant away. And then we have Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. I have a lot to say about both games. I love them, and KCD2 specifically is what prompted the train of thought for this video. Like Assassin's Creed, these games take place on Earth. They take some artistic license with the placement of some things due to scale as well. As I said earlier, I can't speak to Assassin's Creed's authenticity with the three main cities of Damascus, Jerusalem and Acre. I've never been to either. However, I can speak to the authenticity of the world of Kingdom Come Deliverance 1 and 2. I've been to quite a few places that feature in the games. It helps that I'm living close to Czechia, and when I was there, I was getting the déjà vu experience, most notably with the monastery in Sasava, the market, Quirk and Apus Castle in Rataya, and the old town in Kutna-Hora, as well as being around Trotsky. The maps in these games are more like intricate illustrations covered in clouds, which are revealed as you traverse them. Towns often have their own dedicated maps as well. In the hardcore mode of both games, the GPS is turned off, as it were, forcing the player to observe the world and compare to the map in order to find their way. It's like having a paper map and following it. No Google Maps navigation at all. And I find it fascinating how much that trickles down about knowing where one is just by their surroundings. Let's take the first KCD game for example. Each forest has a very different vibe. And having spent some time in the game, you could drop me in any of them and I'm likely to find my way back to Ratai pretty quickly. I haven't spent as much time in KCD2, but having my second playthrough right now on hardcore mode, I still find my way without issue in a way that I have experienced seldom in games. I consult the map from time to time, but I have to use my brain more, which is nice to do in a world where everybody and their simulated dogs want to sell you AI services rather than trust you to do things by yourself, with your own means. It's the journey that matters, not just the result. Not that AI results are anything to write home about. Having seen some particular parts of the world in-game and in real life, it's astounding how close the game world is, even though there are 600 years between the game time and our sad timeline. On top of that, the in-game maps are a work of art by themselves. They are accurate to the game world, but not in a we rendered a top-down view with black outlines kind of way. And as an artist myself, I appreciate that a lot. Just look at these corner and border illustrations. Looks very in tune with the late medieval period that the game takes place in. Another thing I appreciate about the map is relatively organic exploration. When you're first dropped into the game world as a player, you have very few markers on the map. It's covered in cloud that recede as you explore the areas underneath. The only thing you see at that point are town names and main quest markers for the next part of the story, as well as side quest markers for any you've started. Any shop, hunting spots, camps and such are noted on the map if you're in proximity to those. It's encouraging you as a player to get off the beaten path and see for yourself what's out there. Sometimes there's nothing, and you might be disappointed, but sometimes you stumble upon literal in-game gold. How much of that you find is up to your willingness to explore. In conclusion, a map and how it presents to players can be vital as to how immersed a player is with the world. It can incentivize or distract from exploration depending on density of points of interest, acquisition of such, and general map clarity. Having a fitting art style helps, but that's usually a given as games tend to present in a cohesive manner. I personally really appreciated the more 3D maps in Assassin's Creed Unity, for example. Gave a very interesting depth to the map and emphasized the vertical space of the game world as well. And it fit with the Animus tech, although I think the system used in that game had a different name as it was released to in-game customers, There is an entire lore thing in here. Another interesting way to feature 3D maps were the Divine Beasts in Zelda Breath of the Wild. The ability to have them displayed in 3D, rotate them, and affect how the area changed in some way was quite unique. It's a bit of a shame the rest of the game adopted the Ubisoft approach to higher elevations, revealing the immediate area. But sometimes basic maps do more good than bad artistic ones. So sticking with basic is not a bad choice if devs either don't know how or don't have the time to make a map extra without detracting from the game experience. While I was talking about the game maps, I had a time-lapse of me drawing this book map in the background. I had a blast working on the finishing touches now that my book world is somewhat fleshed out. I still reserve the right to change names and borders here and there, but the general layout is there and changes should be quick now that I've laid down the rules for it. While maps and books serve a different purpose from game maps, the topics somewhat aligned, and I thought it might go well together. Readers aren't interacting with a book map quite the same way, and some ignore it completely, while others obsess over knowing where the characters currently are. It's me. I'm others. And fantasy cartography can be a neat exercise in itself. I've seen some amazing maps, some very rudimentary but still getting the point across, others wonderfully illustrated. For me it's more of a middle of the road. I wanted the map to be pretty, but I don't want to spend days illustrating the canvas borders and such. I also didn't rely on pre-made brushes a lot. Sometimes I used them just for placement, but I always drew over them in my own style, so there'd be a coherent style to it. I wish I had more opportunities to draw maps, but this one took me ages to finish for reasons mentioned at the beginning of the video, and then a couple of days for the actual crafting part. That may be too much work put into this, given that any potential printing of it will likely stay in the confines of a trade paperback. But sometimes we need to be extra. And that brings me to the end of this video. It is a bit of an out of left field topic, as I mentioned, especially for what this channel has been before. But since divorcing the biz, I've not really put up much, and I don't really know where to go with the channel itself. So if you want to stick around and find out about the same time I will, subscribe to the channel. But if you'd like to stay in more definite proximity to what I'm up to, the newsletter is a much better place to get started. Until the next one, take care and kapla.